Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for joining us again on another edition of Unwrapping Chocolatey, the monthly webinar where we dive deep onto a topic of really your choosing. A lot of the stuff that we put together is based on feedback that you give us. So thank you for doing that. Today, we're going to talk about streamlining your baseline. This is going to be all about tips and tricks and best practices when you're integrating Chocolatey into your imaging process. So the first thing that we're going to do really is kind of set our baseline for this webinar, for this discussion that we're going to have together. So what is a good baseline? How do we define that? Your mileage may vary on this. What you define as a good baseline may not be what somebody else defines as a good baseline, but I think it's generally known or agreed that a good baseline has all of the required Windows updates or all of the available Windows updates applied to whatever the required Windows version is for your image. If you're doing end user compute and you're imaging Windows 11 for your organization, your baseline image is going to be Windows 11 as the operating system with all of the available Windows updates installed and ready to go at the time of building your baseline image. Sometimes it's referred to as a golden image. The term is interchangeable. A good baseline should have minimal extras. This is going to give you a lot of flexibility to use a single image in a lot of places and a lot of different use cases. So with a good golden image or a baseline image, you could have an imaging process for a business unit or a department, an imaging process for a particular region within your organization. If you're a bigger organization, maybe you have locations across state lines or in different countries or continents even. Uh, Making that golden image really as small as you possibly can and reducing the amount of extras that are inside of it makes it a more streamlined process, particularly when you have an imaging process that requires you to pull images maybe across a WAN connection or something like that. Hopefully, you've got things in place that allow you to do that in a more streamlined, performant manner. But I know in previous lives, in my own experience, I've had to image over the internet, over the WAN, uh, which was a challenge. So having a really, really small baseline helped a lot. That's going to give you so much flexibility if you can get your baseline to just the bare minimum of what you need and allow you to install applications, drivers, and things like that as part of your overall process. Now, what are some of those minimal extras when it comes to chocolatey that you can include in an image? Well, you could install Chocolatey CLI itself and ship that as part of your base image. That's fine. If you're a Chocolatey for Business customer, you could bake your Chocolatey for Business license into your image. It's just an XML file placed in a certain location on disk. It's very, very small. That wouldn't be very impactful to your baseline image. You could also go so far as to include the Chocolatey licensed extension and Chocolatey GUI as well. Those are both very, very small packages, and the Chocolatey GUI application in and of itself is very small as well. The one thing that you may notice that's missing from this list, and something that you really shouldn't be including as part of your baseline image, particularly if you're a Chocolatey for Business customer, is the Chocolatey agent. That package, while largely fine to include in the image, like it's not the end of the world if it's in there, but it's got some knock-on effects that are hard to troubleshoot and may not be entirely clear at first when you notice it happening. So the Chocolatey agent, when you install it for the first time and it starts up, it paints a unique ID, a GUID, into the HKLM software Chocolatey registry hive of the Windows workstation. That unique ID is what is used by Chocolatey's central management to register the machine in the database. So if you've baked Chocolatey agent into your image and it's been started on that image, which it will by default, that unique ID will be the same across all of the image of the machines that you've applied that image to. So if you've imaged 10 machines, 20 machines, 1,000 machines, what happens when that agent starts to check in and report data to central management is you'll get one computer record that's just constantly being overwritten. It's a pain in the butt to troubleshoot and realize what's going on if you don't know that that happens. The easiest way to avoid it is to just lay down Chocolatey agent after you've done the imaging process as part of a task sequence or something like that. It's easy to fix if you do have the agent installed in your image and you notice this behavior happening. Simply stop the agent on the affected workstations, delete that unique ID, and start the agent again. When the agent starts up, it'll paint a new unique ID into the registry and they'll start checking in and they'll all be unique and everything's happy again. It it's not the end of the world. Again, not the end of the world if it happens, but you can prevent it by just not including Chocolatey agent as part of your imaging process. Uh, Shift that to a task sequence if you're using SCCM or MDT or whatever you have available to you, whatever you're using for your imaging process. If that's a PowerShell script, if that's a command that you can run, whatever, um, do that Choco install of the agent at that point. So one of the really, really streamlined ways that you can start incorporating Chocolatey into your imaging process is to really understand what Chocolatey provides in terms of dependency management. Chocolatey has a really, really robust dependency management system built right into it. If you've got an application X that depends on application Y, and you've designed the packaging as such that in your new spec file for package X, it has that dependency defined on package Y at whatever version requirements you have, Chocolatey will make sure that that dependency gets installed before the application you care about gets installed. So if application X depends on Y, Chocolatey will ensure that Y is there first and then X will be installed. Um, Super, super cool, super powerful. It's really, really great that Chocolatey holds your hand and ensures the state of things is what they need to be. One gotcha though, and this can be kind of a big gotcha in terms of imaging, is that failed dependencies by default won't stop a package install from occurring. So if you're installing application X as a Chocolatey package and it depends on application Y and Y fails, application X is still going to install. Now you can shut that off, that behavior off, by enabling the stop on first package failure feature or by installing package individually in the order needed. Those are your two options. Obviously, installing packages individually, that leads to more work and you're kind of avoiding the dependency management system that Chocolatey has in place going that route. So recommended would be to enable the stop on first package failure feature if you're going to use this really rich dependency system in your imaging process, and then test and verify the image is complete after it's done. I know that some of is work, uh, but you're probably going to check and make sure everything is good to go anyways before you deliver it to the end user. So it's work that you're going to do anyways, and it's just good practice to make sure that the image that you're delivering once that system is done and set up is in the state that you expect it to be in. There's a bunch of ways that you can do that, and it's kind of outside of the scope of this webinar to talk about. Um, but th there are ways and means and processes that you can put in place to verify your images and the state of the system before you deliver it to an end user. If you're not doing that stuff, you should be. Now, one of the things that Chocolatey provides as well uh, comes in the form of a particular package type. Um, Package types, there are a whole bunch. There are installer based package types that install applications. There are, extension based packages that are just PowerShell scripts or PowerShell modules. We've talked about those on previous webinars. There's also this concept of a meta package or a virtual package. And what those are packages that just contain dependencies in a new spec file. They don't have any of the chocolatey install.ps1 or chocolatey uninstall.ps1 or any PowerShell scripts at all. It doesn't even need to have a tools folder because there's nothing to put in the tools folder. They are just a new spec file with a tree of dependencies defined. That's it. So if you've got a baseline meta package that you've created that has, the handful of applications as packages that every single machine that you image is supposed to receive, you can just say Choco install baseline package, and every application that's required is going to be installed as part of that. It's a one-stop shop, super, super quick way to install a whole bunch of applications. Now, there are downsides to that, and we just talked about that in the previous slide, in that failed dependencies won't stop a package from being installed. So when you're using a meta package to install a whole bunch of stuff at once, you really want to control the state of things and what happens should one of those applications fall over. Now, when you're imaging a computer, everything in a perfect world will just work because you've tested that things install correctly. You've tested the order of operations. Everything's working good so that when you start to actually use that image for real, your process is bulletproof and it just works. But we all live in an imperfect world, right? But Windows is going to be Windows, software is going to be software, stuff is going to fall over at some point. So ways to mitigate risk or bad things happening or whatever, or accidents from occurring, pay attention to this stuff. Set that feature to stop on first package failure. Test your imaging process. Check your images after they've been applied. Do all those good things, and you're going to be really, really successful with incorporating Chocolatey into your imaging process. When you're thinking about baking Chocolatey into your imaging process, we do have a couple of recommended configurations. Now, the biggest one on here is that self-service mode, and this is specifically for those of you who are Chocolatey for Business customers. The self-service mode enables you to take away people's admin rights. And I know that scares a lot of you that are developers or a lot of you that support developers in your organization. Developers like their admin rights so that they can install what they need to install when they need to install it. And they might need different tooling and things like that to do their job. Well, self-service mode is meant to allow them to continue doing those things just in a more safe way for your organization. By removing those admin rights from those end users, you're reducing your security footprint across however many developer machines you're interacting with, or machines in general, that you're able to take those admin rights away from those specific users. Now, this does require Chocolatey for Business, as mentioned, and it does require that Chocolatey agent service be installed as part of your image. The Chocolatey agent service, what it does is when a Chocolatey install command is issued and that package invokes an installer, the Chocolatey agent service picks up the invocation of that installer on the user's behalf. So it elevates to admin rights and performs the installation and then gives control back to the end user. They don't need admin rights to do that. The agent service takes care of everything. They get what they need. Everybody's happy. There are a couple of things that you need to do to make all that work and light up the magic. The first thing being any chocolatey sources that you have enabled on their machines, or any machines that you want them to be able to install packages from themselves. You should have the allow self-service flag apply to those machines. So you enable that self-service mode for those particular sources. You should have the use background mode feature enabled. And then you should also, and this is kind of optional, you can do what you want here, but use it. And I have a typo in this slide, I just noticed. So use background service with non-administrators only. You should use that feature, and then any non-administrative user who issues a Choco install command will use the background service. The installer will be ran by the background service and not the user that invokes Choco. You can force everybody, administrators included, through the background service by disabling that feature. So if the use background service with non-administrators only feature is turned off, literally anybody who issues a Choco command on the computer is going to be subjected to the background service. That's kind of super awesome security posture kind of settings, but hopefully in your organization you're taking away the admin rights of the people who need their admin rights taking away, and you might be logging in with a privileged account and doing privileged things and want to issue install commands from Chocolatey and things like that. So it's your mileage may vary, right? It's kind of up to you to decide how you configure that, but that's what that means. That's how that all works. uh, Another couple of important recommended configurations. We want you to have a single source of truth where your packages come from. Now, you might have more than one source of truth where packages come from, right? You might have a repository per business unit, or a repository per location, or whatever. But Chocolatey should be configured with the sources that you maintain, managing, and are in control of. You should not have the Chocolatey community repository itself enabled on your endpoint, nor should you have the Chocolatey license repository enabled on your endpoints. Now, you can completely remove the Chocolatey community repository source. You can say Choco source remove name Chocolatey, and it'll go away and it'll stay gone forever until you put it back. The Chocolatey license repository is not that way. We ensure that the license repository source is there if you've got a license installed on your system, because you may be installing the extension for the first time. Like we guarantee that you at least have the source there. Now you should disable that source, and if you disable that source will stay disabled, which is what you would want, right? So enable and configure the sources that you control and maintain, and disable or remove any of the sources that we provide. Now, that's not to say you can't use packages from those sources. You should be internalizing or otherwise pulling packages off of those feeds and putting them on feeds that you control, so that you have complete control and access to those packages when you need them, right? So, a couple of recommended configurations, things to think about as you're starting to incorporate Chocolatey into your imaging process. Uh, I typically do not like slides when I'm doing demonstrations and things like that. So that was really hard for me. thanks for sticking with me while I went through all that. It was really, really important that we get all that information, and sometimes slides is the best way to provide that. So we're done with slides now. We're going to move over and start doing the fun stuff. But before we move over and start doing a lot of that fun stuff, I'm going to really quickly pause and just check our uh, Q&A and stuff like that and make sure we are all good. And it looks like we are, so I can continue. Great. So here we've got a couple of VMs running. I've got a repository. I'm running Anito ProGet here, and I've got all of the Chocolatey packages that I need to start using Chocolatey in my imaging process, in my repository. And I've got a couple of client machines in various states of being set up. One isn't set up at all, and the other is. So the first thing that we're going to do is kind of highlight that meta package approach to installing uh, applications. And I'm going to really quickly pull up my Visual Studio instance here. And inside of this meta package folder, I've got a lot of helper functions and things like that that are going to be available uh, in the repository after this webinar concludes. You guys that are here will get an email that'll have a link to the repository and the content. So don't worry about getting access to this stuff. You'll have access to it shortly after the webinar concludes. We'll send that uh, stuff out to you guys. But the one that we're going to look at today, or one of the scripts we're going to look at today, is this example meta package.ps1 script. So all we're going to do is just generate a meta package real quick that has a couple of dependencies on it. Nothing super, super crazy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say meta package, and I'm going to say example meta package, and then packages. Oh, you know what? Do I have? Yeah, here we go. I'm going to do. All right, it's not auto completing my stuff for me, so I have to remember the. Oh, no, you know what? Let me just do this. I don't know why this isn't auto completing, but that's okay. I will just do one here. Let's do get dot equals get dot install, and then let's do the version equal to, and let me just real quickly get my version number off of here, 25102. 2.51.0.2, and we'll run that. So what's just happened is behind the scenes, if we go to this baseline folder, I've generated my meta package. This is all I need to create a package. And if we open this up, oh, it's going to be weird on me. So let me edit this with Notepad++. There we go. And bring this over here. There we go. You can see it's generated my new spec file for me, and I've got the dependency in here. This git.install. Can I zoom this a little bit? Where is the zoom? There we go. Just a little bit. Perfect. So we've got that dependency installed or defined inside of our new spec file. Now what we can do, do I have the license extension installed on this machine? I don't think I do. But what we can do is we can say Choco Pack C webinar. We've got this baseline new spec file, and we can say output directory is equal to C webinar. And we can build that baseline package. With that baseline package built, now we can bring that over and start to and actually use it. So sorry, I'm doing this kind of off on my other screen where you guys can't see it. But what I'm going to do is come over here and just put that baseline package on my repository server, and then I'm going to upload it into my repository real quick. So I'm going to open the uploader. And hopefully it's not hiding. There it is. We'll say upload, and this will push this up into my ProGet instance here. And then with that package pushed up to my ProGet instance, I should be able to just click view packages, scroll all the way to the bottom. There's my baseline. It's now inside of there. So on my client now, since I have Chocolatey is already installed, configured, and all that good stuff, I can say Choco install baseline-y, and what it's going to do is just install whatever those dependencies are. Now, you could have one, like I'm doing here. You could have two, three, four, whatever, as part of your meta packages. And then inside of your task sequences or whatever system you're using to do your images, you just say Choco install, just like I've done here. Whatever you can use to run this exact command, that's what you would do. I know in SCCM world, when you are installing an application, you set the installer to point to choco.exe, and then the installation arguments are install package name -y, whatever extra stuff that you need to install that application. Task sequence is kind of the same deal. Point it at the installer, give it the argument of install package ID -y, and you're good to go. So that's meta packages. And there's one aspect of meta packages that's kind of important that we haven't really touched on yet. And that is the order in which things install. So if we were to come over here and let me just see if I can pull this up again. I closed it and I shouldn't have. So if I had more than one dependency in here, the order in which those dependencies install isn't guaranteed. And I thought I was going a little bit crazy because the order in which I defined them in my new spec file when I was putting things together, it actually installed things in that order. So I checked with somebody on the team that was, smarter than I am. And they're like, no, it's true. The dependency order is not guaranteed inside of a new spec. So how do you get around that, right? How do you solve that problem? Well, what you could do is start to nest things together when you're building your baselines. And what does that look like? If we were to run this script, this ordered install, what we're going to do on this one, and we can just highlight this example here so we can see where I'm going to be talking right through here. We've got this ordered hash table that's got a couple of packages inside of it. So we're going to install Firefox, Putty, and VLC. And the Firefox new spec is here, Putty is here, VLC is here, and I can probably switch this over to a different theme so it's a little bit easier to read on the stream. So how this works is Chocolate's dependency resolution system with this ordered hash table, we are going to say for this myapp.newspec file, we are going to take a dependency on Firefox in the myapp.newspec. And then in the Firefox newspec, we are going to take a dependency on Putty. And then in Putty, we are going to take a dependency on VLC. And then VLC is the last thing in the list, so it has no dependencies. So what happens when you say Choco install my app -y is it goes, do I have any dependencies to install? And it resolves Firefox. But Firefox goes, do I have any dependencies to install? And it says, yep, I've got to install this putty.portable package. A puttybot.portable says, well, guess what? I need VLC before I can continue. And then we get to VLC and it says, oh, I'm good. I'm the end of the chain. We'll start here. VLC gets installed, then Putty gets installed, then Firefox gets installed, then my app gets installed. And it's kind of similar to how group policy works, where you would think that group policy applies kind of from the OU down, but it's actually opposite. So it's when you're defining group policies and then they apply, it's local site domain OU, right? Where logically, when you're defining your group policies, you're first going to the OU, maybe then to the domain, then to the site, then to the, it's backwards than what your brain wants to think. But that's how it works. It goes all the way to the beginning of the chain and walks backwards until it has everything that it needs to be successful. So this example, and I know that this one happens to be inside of here. We can say meta package example underscore ordered install, and I'm just going to right click or let me grab this dependencies first. I don't have that. Grab my dependencies, then I will run my meta packages example ordered install, point it at the ordered baseline.newspec, and then my dependencies. And I think I have ordered baseline already made, but I might not. So let me run this one new. Yeah, here we go. Oop, I didn't do that. New. Perfect. Now I can do meta package example this, install all my dependencies. And now if we look at my webinar folder, we have my ordered baseline. Here's my new spec. And then if we were to edit this with Notepad++, here is my Firefox dependency. And if we were to walk down through all of the other dependencies, we'll just do Firefox as the example here. And we look at it real quick. And of course, it doesn't want to open in the right thing because I clicked the wrong button. There we go. All the way at the bottom, there's that putty.portable package. And again, the putty.portable package depends on VLC install, and we're done. So now to demonstrate this, what we can do is say copy as path. I can come over. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I can say Choco Pack this, and we'll put the output directory to see webinar. And we'll run that one. And then same rules apply. We'll grab this ordered baseline package and we will copy it over to my VM. And then we'll upload it into my ProGit instance. And just being cognizant of time, it looks pretty good. We'll click upload. It'll do its thing. That'll be fine. We're done. And now if we refresh this page, there's my ordered baseline package, and we can do the exact same thing over here. We can say Choco install ordered dot baseline dash y. And if I've done my homework correctly, which I think I have, it's going to install everything in the correct order. I think I already had one of these packages installed, so it's doing setup. Blah blah blah. Okay. So there we go. That's doing its thing. Yeah. So I already had a couple of the dependencies installed on that box, but there's the Firefox package has been done. Now, one other aspect that we haven't talked about yet that's using meta packages to control the order of things. The other aspect of laying down Chocolatey as part of your imaging process is the actual installation of Chocolatey itself. This is a a sneak peek of something that's coming out in the next couple weeks, a new organizational deployment guide. But the client setup script that's going to be part of that guide is ready to go. So here it is. What this script does is sets up Chocolatey in a recommended manner. This script is very opinionated in terms of what it does with regards to how we think Chocolatey should be set up, but it's also built to be very, very flexible as well, so that you can do uh, kind of your own configuration, features, sources, all that sort of stuff. It's very, very flexible while maintaining kind of a baseline, if you will, of Chocolatey configuration, what we recommend you do. So, super cool script. I won't go through it all here while we're talking on the webinar, but it will be, as mentioned, part of the new organizational deployment guide that's coming out in the next couple weeks, and it will be available as part of the resources that go out via email to everybody that's on the call here, so that you can check it out, use it, abuse it, all that fun stuff. Um, So let's see what that looks like in practice. Now I am going to do a couple of things over here on this client 2 machine. I'm just going to real quickly get a credential configured, and then I am going to set, actually the execution is already set. So what I can do is say and desktop client setup repository URL. That URL is a bit long. NuGet slash webinar slash v3. That is going to be that. And we don't need to supply anything else because we're just going to let what client setup has defined do its thing. So what this does is actually goes out and installs Chocolatey for us. And once Chocolatey is installed, it actually starts to configure Chocolatey in the way that we kind of recommend. And then again, it's super flexible. You can modify it to do what you need to. But this is how it's configured for me. I just accept the recommendations and it goes off and it does its thing. Now you'll see this red text. Don't worry about the red text. It's a chicken or the egg problem. In order to install the license extension and turn on license features, we need a license file. Once you have placed a license file on disk, anytime you install or invoke Chocolatey after that, it looks for the license extension. And if it doesn't have it, well, it's going to throw red text. So, uh, kind of once you put the license on until you install the extension, you'll see that red error message. But as soon as the extension gets installed, as you see happen just now, it goes away after that. So super quick, uh, but something to be aware of. Most of you guys that are C4B customers, you're aware of that. You see it all the time. It's nothing to be concerned about. But for those of you unfamiliar, that's what's going on there. And then once this is done, chocolate is ready to go. It's going to have the source on it. We'll be able to see all of the packages. We'll be able to consume all of the packages, um, whatever we need to do there. So if you're going to go this route with baking chocolate into your imaging process, it's just a PowerShell script. Now, this PowerShell script does require you to pass some parameters to the script. So whatever system you're using should have the ability to do that. But you could always create a little wrapper that has the parameters inside of it already defined, and you just call the script via a controller, if you will. That'll that'll be the way to do that. But most systems nowadays that you use for imaging have the ability to call a PowerShell script with parameters, and this is a really simple way to get Chocolatey onboarded as part of your imaging process. And again, with this client setup script written the way it is, it's super flexible in that if you need to install a particular suite of packages or maybe a meta package as part of your imaging process for a group of machines, you can do that. Or if that needs to change for a different group of machines, you can do that as well. So it's super flexible to allow you to control, while these machines get this configuration, this group of machines gets that configuration, and you just have to maintain that kind of separate from the golden image itself. And we're done there. We've got Chocolatey installed on here. Now I can just run Choco. It'll come back what version it is. Everything's nice and happy there. One other aspect that you can use Chocolatey, and we will wrap up and complete the webinar with this unless there's questions here at the end, is driver injections. So this is a really simple script that I put together to kind of demonstrate how you might do this within your organization. And what I'm using is basically just a hash table that has a single model inside of it. Now my model, I'm running a Lenovo P16 ThinkPad. And the model number coming out of the BIOS is a 21 fact 01 WW. So what I've done is I've said for this model, here's a hash table of the various drivers that this machine requires, and these are the package IDs uh, for those particular drivers. So what we'd say here is we get the system info, and this is what I use to get this information. And then I just call into this hash table and say, hey, give me the hash table associated with this particular key. So with this model name, give me that hash table. And then I iterate over that. And I say for each object. And in this particular instance, I'm just going to say executing Choco install and then the package name. So if we were to run that really quickly, what that looks like is just driver injector.ps1. Instead of running Choco install, I'm just using a write host to simulate. But managing drivers as Chocolatey packages is a really, really cool use case for Chocolatey. You don't have to rely on the automated or the automatic driver update functionality that's built into, like Dell Command Update or ThinkPad Vantage. Maybe you want a little bit more control over those driver updates. Delivering them as a chocolatey package allows you to do that. And that's actually what we're going to talk about next month in our November webinar. We're going to flesh this concept out. We're going to teach you how to use the various tools, well, a couple of tools to manage those drivers, get those drivers like Dell Command Update or ThinkPad Vantage from or Lenovo Vantage or whatever Lenovo's tool is called. I can't remember off the top of my head. But we're going to teach you how to download the drivers for a specific model using those tools, how to package them using chocolatey packages, using templates for your drivers. Notice that all of my drivers here are very specifically called .driver at the end, so I know exactly what that package is. And then we'll show you some automation type stuff that you can use to build those driver version or new package versions over time. So as a new NIC driver or new video driver for whatever system you guys are supporting comes out, your automation picks up that new driver update, creates a chocolatey package, and publishes it for you. So not only during your imaging process will you get the latest version of a driver, but you can also then maintain those drivers over time as updates and security fixes and CVEs get patched and all that good stuff. Similar to how you're managing your applications, manage your drivers in the same way. So I think that is all of the content that I wanted to cover today. If anybody has any questions, let me know in the Q&A that is available at the bottom of the little Zoom window thing there. Um, and one other thing that I want to pop up, I've got a little poll that I will pop up for the remainder of the webinar here. It's a really simple poll. If you've seen anything in this webinar that you're like, we don't use C4B, maybe we should, let us know. We'll reach out to you if you would like a demo of the full suite of Chocolatey for Business products. Otherwise, if there are no questions, when this webinar ends, you are going to be directed to a survey. And that survey, again, super, super short. How'd you like the webinar? What can we do different in the future? What topics do you want to see in a future webinar? That's a super important question that is very, very helpful for me as I'm building out content and things like that. And I'm going to shut my share off because I'm kind of done with it. But please, if you have 30 seconds to fill out that survey and let us know what you would like to see us cover in a future webinar, I really, really appreciate it. Next month, we're going to talk about, as mentioned, updating drivers and managing drivers as chocolatey packages. And that is unfortunately going to be the last webinar that we cover for the year 2025. We shut down pretty early in December to take the Christmas holiday. So we're going kind of the last week of December there. And it's just a busy time with family and travel and all that stuff. So we're going to take a break. We're going to recharge, rest up a little bit, take a look at your feedback, and then come back ready to go in 2026 with a really awesome lineup of webinar content for you guys. So again, thank you guys for coming. I'm going to do one last check at the Q&A here, and then we will close everything off. So, Chris, you've got a question. Let's see. where do you get the Choco package utility to use to upload the Choco pack to ProGet? That utility comes from the Chocolatey licensed extension. That is the package uploader. That is available as a right-click context menu when you have the licensed package or the licensed extension package installed. So if you don't currently see that on your machine, your administrator may have installed the licensed extension without the right-click context menus. Um, in order to get those context menus, you can just force reinstall the extension without that package parameter on the command. I think off the top of my head, it's dash dash params equals slash no context menu. It's in the documentation though. If you look at the documentation for installing the licensed extension, it's in there on how to either include or not include the right click context menus. Package uploader, super, super cool. But again, you can do everything through the command line as well. It's just a GUI on top of the Choco push command. So that's what it is. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up for the day. Thank you to everybody who has turned up for the webinar. I hope you liked it. I hope you got something out of it. Hopefully, it was useful. Uh, Stay tuned for a link to the recording once we get this up on our YouTube channel and process and all that good stuff. And then also keep a lookout for an email that's going to have a bunch of follow-on resources for you guys to take a look at. We'll have some resources and links to third-party repository like Nito's documentation for setting up a proxy repository or hosting your own repo. Same thing for Sonatype Nexus and JFrog Artifactory as well. So I can't remember what the other resources are. There's a bunch of them that are coming out. Look out for that email. And if you're a Chocolatey for Business customer and you've got questions for over anything that we've seen, or you want some help implementing any of the stuff that you've seen today, reach out to support if you've got support. If you don't have support, hit our Discord up. You can get the link to our Discord off of our website at chocolatey.org, and we'll be more than happy to help you out over there via community assistance if you don't have a support contract. And that goes for those of you that are open source users of Chocolatey as well. So happy to help in any way you can, in whatever way we have available to help you. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and have a great rest of your day and a good rest of your week. Take care.